By enhancing that entity, he's bringing the godly spirit into that entity. And if he looks at it from a klipa perspective, then he's enhancing the opposite. Just by observing, by looking at it.
Because that's his godly and directed purpose.
Right? This is his godly mandate. This is his godly capacity. Even as when you take a morsel of food and make a bracha, you're making a profound change in the food. How? Because you're saying a few words.
Till then, it was concealed what the food really was.
What?
The bracha reveals what the food really is, like what it's.
Yes, that's right.
Is this dialed in?
It's dialed in. Okay, so we are. Shlomi Yesen has to say the. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay. We are on the bottom, on the last line on page Vav in the pamphlet. What we are discussing right now in this little paragraph is that the koichos reveal themselves in proximity, in direct reflection of what the mezeg, or the structure and the quality of the aver in which they reveal themselves, the quality of the chomer. Clearly, seichel is not mislavish in the hand, mislavish in the moyach, but within the moyach, it depends very heavily what is the nature of the so to speak material, the chomer hamoyach. That affects, is reflected in the seichel, how the seichel functions. So we discussed in the beginning of these few lines about the moyach. Ukmoi kein, similarly, bekoyach horiyo sheba'ayin. Talking about the faculty of sight that is ba'ayin, the koyach horiyo that is in the ayin. In the eye. Lefi oifan chomer ho'ayin. In the manner of the chomer ho'ayin, of the material of the eye, b'shacher v'loven shabei. In the balance between the shacher and loven, the black and the white in the eye. Kach Yovei Oir Horiya Horuchniyis. In like manner and reflective of that structure will come the Koyach Horiya, the Koyach of sight, Horuchniyis, the spiritual Koyach Horiya. Ukenoide, as is well known, the Gam Inyan, Toiv Ayin, Vera Ayin, that even that type of remote element that is described as Toiv Ayin, having a good eye, Ra Ayin, and having a bad eye, meaning having a broad an eye that wishes well, and an eye that reflects jealousy. Tolui b'mzigas chomer ho'ayin hagashmi. That too is reflective of the mzigas, of the mix of the chomer ho'ayin hagashmi. Imuhu b'ribui domim. One of the differences, different type of chomer ho'ayin. For example, beribui domim, it has a lot of element of blood. In other words, a lot of personal experience and excitement. Oy b'miu domim, or with a minimum of domim, of blood or personal experience, as is explained elsewhere. B'derech klal, then it says parenthetically a general statement. Overall, in general, according to the manner of mezigas, of the mixture, and b'harkovas, and the interaction, interplay, and the mix of dam and mayim, of blood and water, beivore haguf. Dam and mayim are opposites in this sense. Dam has fire as an excitement, and it actually focuses on itself. Mayim is water, is cool and is accepting. Generally speaking, in terms of midas, dam is like gvura, and mayim is like chesed. Beivore haguf, in proximity to the mix of these two elements in the volume of the guf, shezeh inyan, this is reflected in the principle odom, in the word odom. Odom is a word comprised of two sections, aleph, dam. That principally in the odom is found the dam, and the extent to which this dam is modified, so to speak, by the addition of chesed, of seichel. This is how the odom comes out. In that manner will be the mezigas, will be the mix of the koiches ruchnim, of the spiritual koiches.
Is the aleph of Adam water?
I don't know what the Adam's songs say. I'll tell you the truth, I don't remember seeing about the aleph. The music is the mix of the koiches ruchniim. As for example, mishu ragzon beteva, someone who is angry by nature, prone to anger. Ragzon means prone to anger by nature. Oishu who shokit v'noch beteva, or one who is quiet and restful in his nature. Harei zeh, that is lefi harkovas hadam v'hamayim b'chomer haguf. It is reflective of the intermix of the blood and water b'chomer haguf, in the makeup of the body, the physical makeup of the body. V'yesh, and there is also the possibility, shegam b'ribui domim, that even when there is a lot of blood, kiya mizigas hamayim b'toiv, there will be a good admixture of water in a proper manner. and then it will be a perfect mix, a perfect presentation. Okmoi admoini imifeinai. Admeini imifeinai means red, but beautiful eyes, which means red is the Buddha, the personal excitement, but ifeinai, but he has beautiful eyes, meaning that he has a pleasant presentation, a pleasant look. This result that the koiches, even the koiches ruchniim, are reflective of the structure of the guf, is due to the fact that the koiches ruchniim, the koiches, as we said all the way in the beginning, are mislabesh, really imbue into the chomer haguf. I was said in the very first statement that the seichel is mislabesh bechomer bechomer hamoyach, not just being present in a superficial manner of the moyach. Moyach is sensitive to it, but actually it's bechomer hamoyach in the very material of the moyach itself.
And there's a dynamic relationship. The vessel's not determining the koyach, and the koyach's kind of like we had last night. It seemed like if the moyach was lach or yavesh, then through his avodah it becomes more or less.
Well, he can. Yes, this is every koyach, everything in a person. He can by avodah, by practice, he can change. He can change a lot. He can affect it.
Right.
Even physically, he can
yes.
practice his and exercise his muscles.
Right. So here where it said one who by nature is prone to aggression or prone to rest, that would be like that person's starting point, not necessarily their.
That's right.
phase.
That's right. Not necessarily. Not necessarily this is what he is bound to. This is why the Rambam talks about Hichas Deis. And he says that a person has one extreme of a midah, another extreme of a midah, it is obligatory upon him to set his midas in a proper mixture, in a proper mix of positive and negative. But how by nature he is not. That's why the Rambam says there's a process by which he can bring out certain qualities.
He'll change his body in the process.
What?
And his body will change in the process.
And then the physical body will change in the process. This is no different than doing exercise with your muscles. Nowadays, exercise has been developed to such a fine level where a person has a headache, they have exercise for that.
Yeah. And right. And there's also new work in brain plasticity, the way that they used to think the brain was very static. If you had an injury, God forbid. Now there's new studies on the way the brain regrows.
Yeah. V'hagam shehakoiches v'hoivori. It must never be lost by us. Not understanding. Shehakoiches v'hoivorim einam be'erech klal. Zeh lo zeh. Are not in proximity. They are not in the same level, in the same domain at all, one with the other. Shehakoiches ruchniim heimo. But the koiches are ruchniim, v'hoivorim gashmiyim. The koiches are ruchniim, are spiritual, and the vorim agashmiyim are physical. principle of Gashmiyim, we all can very readily identify what that is. Ruchniyim, that is already a little bit of a challenge for us to understand what it is. The absolute truth is Gashmiyim, we spoke about it a while ago, the expression of wrap my brain around it. You can wrap your brain around the Gashmi quality, the Gashmi principle. But to wrap your brain around the Ruchni principle is not possible. There's nothing to wrap the brain around. This is a sense that you sense due to the fact that you are Ruchni, because you are alive. And this is why you're able to identify with it. And the koiches are literally ruchniyim. In principle, even though the body, the gasness of the body, in order for it to sustain its existence, it must have life in it. Otherwise, it will just disintegrate. Yet still, we are saying that there is life in the body. This is a living body, which means primarily we can actually touch the body without identifying with the life that's in it. Even though that to sustain it, it has to have life in it. This principle that it has to have life in it is so subtle, it's so much concealed within the Gashmi that it's possible to lose sight of it and think the Gashmi is the Gashmi, is the whole Metzias. As you point out all the time, human health, this is also something that the world is coming to recognize. Human health, physical health, you would think is entirely dependent on its physical structure and its physical supply. How well he eats, what kind of food he eats, how much he rests, how much exercise he does, all of these things. Bottom line, this is all not true. The life element, the spirit that flows through the body of the person, this is the principle of his health. Everything else is depending on this. If he's got spirit, so the food goes in the right direction and has the proper benefit. And exercise benefits him correctly and so forth. If he does not have that spirit, then the food goes into obesity, and it's not healthy food. So principally, yes, there is the ruchnius in the person, but again, we lose sight of it. But the koichos like sight, hearing, midos and seichel, this is literally a ruchni. It's exclusively a ruchni. The evorim are merely means by which this ruchni can be revealed itself in the Gashmistic world. So this is what he says here, that even though the koiches and the evorim are totally there's no proximity, there's no commonality between them. Eino be'erech. Sha'koiches ruchnim heima ve'evorim gashmi. Kol mokoim yet still mi'ach asher mislabshim bohem, being that the koiches are mislabish in the evorim, and the hislabshus is so profound, so total, that ukfi oi von mezgei hakelim, according to the manner of the mix of the kelim, who mezgei hakoiches. This is how the mix of the koiches will be. In other words, the koyach does not function totally independently of the Eber. The Eber is a participant in how the koyach functions. Therefore, being that the hislapshus of the koyach in the Eber is so total, behechrech loimer, it is imperative, a logical imperative to say, sheyesh behagshoma stivei hoevorim, that there is contained within the hagshomas, the physicality of the tivei hoevorim, and the nature of the evorim, me'ein bedugma teva mahus ein haruchni v'nefesh, of an element of, and as something of kinship, of the teva mahus oir haruchni, the nature of the mahus, of the reality of the oir haruchni, the nefesh, of the spiritual light of the nefesh. She'alidei zeh, where as a result of this commonality, hem kelim muchonim lekabel b'hem tzuras hanefesh. This is what makes them kelim, ready, prepared to receive the tzuras hanefesh, the tzura, the functionality of the nefesh, and the tzura, the personality of the nefesh. Ukmoi, as for example, behirus ho'ayin, the brightness of the eye, keili lo'er hori, is a keili for the oil of sight. Ukmoi, and similar to the principle that kol dover melutos makabel oir. Anything that is melutos, that is very, very smoothly cleared, makabel oir accepts light.
Like polished?
Huh?
It's like polished?
Trans-
Polished?
translucent.
Lutesh is like polished?
Polished, yeah. And similarly, choymer hamoyach, the material of the moyach, v'halachluch is hadako shaboy, and the fine moisture that's in the moyach, yesh boy is a dugma. It contains some similarity miteva oir haseichel, of the nature of the oir haseichel, of the light of seichel. In other words, there is a certain element in the physicality of the moyach that clearly points to something more than physicality, of refinement, of ruchni, even though it is physical. But within the physical realm, it is a very subtle physical presence. All right, this is it for this morning.
Sure can. You're a good fighter. I don't know. Simcha.
Yitz Hashem will be davening Mincha at Beis Levi Yitzchak 5:22, followed by the Mincha, followed by the Sicha. Note for bringing the Shabbos, we'll have a Malabi Malka in honor of the Seal of the previous Hamshach.
The Malka is
Here. I'll be here at 8 p.m. right to Shem.
And how about Baruch on Shabbos morning?
As far as I know, it's on.
Okay.
I just
I have
texted
to let my son.
la 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 la